Muito boa tarde. Sejam bem-vindos à Faculdade de Ciências e Tecnologia da Universidade Nova de Lisboa e ao FCT Coding Fest 2016. Chamo ao palco o Sr. Presidente do Departamento de Informática da FCT, o Professor Dr. Luís Caires.
Antes de mais, muito boa tarde a todos. É um grande prazer tê-los aqui connosco neste dia, de certa forma, especial, em que temos a casa cheia com tantos alunos do ensino secundário a fazer uma coisa que nos diz tanto e ao qual dedicamos tanto tempo da nossa vida a pensar como é que podemos melhorar, juntamente com também tantos professores que estão do lado dessa plateia que também refletem sobre estas questões praticamente todos os dias e que vêm dar-nos também o grande gosto de estarem presentes aqui nesta workshop. Nós pensámos organizar em paralelo com a Hora of Code, na qual neste momento os vossos alunos e filhos eventualmente estão envolvidos. Eu até irá aproveitar para pedir aqui a uns colegas se não podem passar aqui rapidamente o que é que está a passar neste momento. Como vêem, nesta fase do campeonato, durante a fase de treino, já existe aqui uma quantidade gigantesca de atividade que pode ser vista ao nível das várias submissões que foram feitas pelas escolas, a quantidade de puzzles que já foram resolvidos, a quantidade de blocos que foram montados. Portanto, está tudo a correr de vento em popa e, de facto, às 4 horas começará a tal competição que os vai ainda motivar e excitar ainda mais. Portanto, eu passaria neste momento a apresentar o nosso orador principal. Portanto, ia fazer uma primeira apresentação em português e depois faria em inglês, pelas razões que poderão compreender. Portanto, o professor Duncan Maidens é professor em Informática, ou Computer Science, como muitas vezes é referida à disciplina em inglês, principalmente na Europa. É um especialista da área de redes de computadores, por coincidência também tem algumas colaborações com a indústria, dirige uma academia Cisco associada à sua universidade, mas mais do que isso é uma pessoa apaixonada por estes movimentos relacionados com o pensamento computacional, computational thinking, esta ideia de que o conhecimento sobre ideias muito genéricas de computação, não somente aquelas competências digitais de saber usar as ferramentas que todos nós mais ou menos já começamos a saber utilizar e os nossos filhos em particular dominam com grande facilidade, mas a ideia de que a computação informática é uma matéria bastante horizontal que pode contribuir e enriquecer todas as outras disciplinas do conhecimento. Acontece que no Reino Unido existe uma iniciativa muito desenvolvida de interação entre as universidades, as escolas secundárias, o poder local, as empresas, no sentido de promover esta iniciativa, o Computing at School, e portanto nós achámos que era muito interessante convidar alguém, neste caso o professor Duncan Maidens, para nos poder dar uma perspectiva sobre o que é que está a acontecer neste momento em Inglaterra. Quem sabe, todos os países têm a sua particularidades próprias e têm as suas experiências, mas esta partilha resulta sempre positiva, estou seguro. Portanto, I'd like to introduce you Professor Duncan Maidens from Birmingham City University. So Professor Duncan Maidens is a specialist in computer networking, but most prominently a passionate for computer science education to everyone, to all kids in UK, and is one of the main members and prominent activists of this movement, Computing at School at UK. So thank you very much, Duncan, for being here and giving us your talk. So thank you very much.
This is the reality of computer science. There's always a technology problem. There we go. Thank you very much for that very kind introduction. I must apologise. I wish I could give this talk in Portuguese, but alas, I cannot. I feel very ignorant being from England and speaking only English. So I start with an apology, which is always a bad thing. So I want to talk to you today about computer science and why it's important. What are our drivers for what we're doing in education today in England? How we've got to where we are, why we've got to where we are, why we believe it's the right thing to do, and how we're trying to progress forward. So the title of my talk is really about computer science for every child, and it's particularly about England's story. I have to thank a colleague of mine, Simon Peyton-Jones, who was instrumental in getting this organisation going for lots of his ideas and some of the slides I'm using today. So just to start, because some people may think, hang on, England, UK, what's going on there? Just to reiterate, England, or the United Kingdom, is split into the 4 countries of England, Scotland, Wales and Northern Ireland, and our political system is such that each of those countries has its own education department. So what I'm talking about now is happening in England, but clearly Scotland and Wales and Northern Ireland are following suit. So that's just to make sure people understand why I'm talking about that. Okay, so let's get going. I'm sure many of you out there today are aware of this revolution that's happening in computer science. You're aware that it's around us, you can't get away from it. The kids today enjoy it, they're engaged, they're using it. They all seem to be doing this computer science thing. But as a passionate educator in computer science, I spoke to my own children about computer science and what it meant for them. And I discovered I was passionate about computer science as a science. What they were getting, what they were finding through school and what they were being exposed to was using computer science. They were using computational processes without understanding what they did. In our system, they were learning about how to use a computer using Office products, Word, PowerPoint, Excel. They did databases, create another database, go and create a video shop database or something. And they were writing web pages, which is great, it's all good stuff, but it's not computer science. And if I talk to them about what coding was or what a programmer was, they have this perception that a programmer is a geek who sits in a darkened room, eats pizza, drinks coffee, and their whole life is coding, 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 and when they go to sleep, they dream about coding. They have no real picture of what computer science is about. So I thought, well, that's what children are like today. What inspired me to kind of get into computer science? Now, I don't know the age of the audience out there, but when I kind of got into computer science, computers were very simple. So if anybody recognises any of these devices from the past, Commodore 64, Spectrums, BBC Micros, when you got one of those computers, it was great. It was this box of technology. What could you do with it? Very little. If you wanted to do something, what did you have to do? Program it. So my generation and some of you out there may well have kind of got engaged with computing at this early stage. And then it was quite easy because the only way to engage with it was to do it, was to get into computer science. But you look at the kids today, excuse me, you look at the kids today, what do they have? What's their engagement with computer science? Excuse me. Children today come across this with the technology that they use daily. I glanced around here, so it's not just children, is it? I think about 70% of you were on your phones just earlier on, or laptops were open. It's common, it's around us all the time. So everybody's using technology. People are using smartphones. Lots of children are playing, and adults, it's a massive industry. Do you know there's more money in the gaming industry than there is in the filming industry? There's more money to be made through people writing games than there is in all these amazing film stars. But we don't see the red carpet treatment for somebody who wrote, the latest game piece of software. But the jobs are out there. So kids play games. They use laptops, they use smart devices, they're into apps. So their exposure to technology is about using technology. It's not about the underlying principles. They know that there's this thing called the internet, and everything plugs into this magic internet, and goodness knows what happens beyond that. So when we look at those kind of two dichotomies, people like myself and of my age who came into it because you had to, that was the only way was to engage and to actually code, people today don't have that same driver. So it comes down to asking now, what do we want as educators? We can see that there's a need for a better understanding of computer science out there, but it's a massive task. How can we rise to this challenge? So here's a great quote. As an educator, you want to teach computer science. So where do you start? So I'll read the quote. It says, education should prepare young people for jobs that do not exist, using technologies that have not been invented to solve problems of which we are not yet aware. If any of you are teachers out there, I'm going to send you away and write me a course to deliver that. How can you do that? How can you start? What do you teach? It seems like an impossible task to generate interest and get our kids taught to become the next generation of, and I don't want to say the word computer scientists, because in a way we will all need to become computer scientists. We will all be users of computers, and we will all need to understand a bit more about how they work. So, as an educator, we need to understand what the problem is. The problem is, when we come to think about what we teach, we need to split it down into the disciplines that we teach and the skills that we teach. So some of you may know these two terms, but just for clarity, the disciplines are the underlying principles. We send our children to school, they learn physics. They learn maths, they learn English, Portuguese, they learn geography, they learn history. They learn some underlying principles about the way the world works or the way that things are. And we consider these useful skills for our next generation. We're not turning people into becoming a physicist or a mathematician or a Portuguese teacher or a geographer, but they are underlying principles. When we look at the skills that we teach them, we would normally, we would start to drip in skills. So we would teach them how to use a word processor, how to turn a piece of metal on a lathe, how to cook something, how to make something. These are kind of skills that we teach them. And when we look what's been happening with computer science, and this is very true in the UK, I'm not sure what it's quite like in Portugal, but in the UK, it has been very much the case that we've been teaching too much of the skill. We've been teaching people how to use computers. We've been teaching them typically spreadsheets, databases, PowerPoint, creating web pages, but not the underlying principles. There has definitely been too much focus on technology, and it has turned a generation of children off computer science. I speak to so many kids. Do you not want to study computer science at work, at school, at university? No, I'm bored. We just create web pages and another database. That's all we do. I say, well, what about coding? What about designing the internet? What about how networks work? What about how we store data? What about programs that interact with... No, we don't do anything like that. They don't know about what computer science is about, because we've been teaching them the skills. And the important thing about the skills is they go out of date so quickly. I remember talking to my kids, right, I need to show you how to use email. No, that's really old-fashioned. They don't use email anymore. They're all on Snapchat. So I said, Facebook, let's talk about how Facebook works. Oh, Dad, you're really old. Nobody uses Facebook anymore. It's a technology. It's moved on already. So when we're teaching this technology, it's outdated very, very quickly. We need to teach people the skills to be able to cope with whatever technology comes, to be able to embrace it and use it to its maximum. So we know today what goes into digital skills. We know what the products are, what software is out there, what people in the real world use. So we can teach digital skills. That's not a problem. The question now is, what are the underlying principles of computer science? What are those equivalent facts that we learn in physics or chemistry? How do they translate? What would they be in computer science? It can't be a programming language. I mean, I learnt on Pascal and 6502 and 68,000 code. Nobody writes that anymore. You know, everybody's into Java, and even that's getting outdated now. You speak, how many languages are out there? There are thousands of languages. So it's not even the language. We're not even saying, oh, every child should learn C. No, because that will move on. It's the underlying principle of programming that's important. And what is that? That's a difficult question to ask, to understand what that principle is. So, there's not enough about the underlying concepts in our education. That's the problem. And another important question is, why are we having this talk today? Why is this all happening now? What's been the I mean, this computing has been around for 30, 40 years, you know, kind of being used by people. It's been around a bit longer, being used by industry. What's the change now? Well, we truly are way into the start of a new digital age. It's a reality. It's just been happening around us. Some people just embrace it and don't think about it. If you start thinking about it, it's actually quite frightening. Think how reliant you are on technology. Just imagine all technology stopped. Just imagine the internet stopped working. Okay, I couldn't get my emails. Wow, that's not really important. You wouldn't be getting electricity because all the power stations would have shut down. You wouldn't be getting any food because the whole logistic system of managing food. People wouldn't be growing things because so much of that is computer controlled. The transport infrastructure would shut down. There'd be no fuel in the cars anyway. Our world would collapse without technology. It's frightening how reliant we are on it now. What's the answer? Go and live in a far northern island and farm your own sheep and you know, generate your own power. It's the only way to survive. Sadly, we've lost a lot of those skills. That's another story anyway. Just as I was researching to do this talk, I kind of came aware of this, and it was something I'd read about a while ago and I'd forgotten. We really believe that technology is now changing very rapidly. We think about things like the agricultural revolution. I'm sorry, this slide, you can't read the detail. Think about the agricultural revolution. That was moving to farming. That kind of lasted and is still around today. That technology, that game changer, was around for about 8,000 years. Think about the industrial revolution. Think about how new technology comes in, it's embraced, and we move on. The thing with the digital revolution is this has all happened in our lifetime. In our lifetime, we have gone from no digital technology to now being reliant on it for our survival. The impact is massive. And the people that kind of speculate about this think about where this curve is going. I'm sure if you're a mathematician, you recognize this. It's one of those exponential curves. It grows very rapidly. It's more than an exponential curve. It's growing exponentially at an exponential rate. You have to be a mathematician to understand that kind of concept. It means it is changing really, really fast. We now reckon with computing power that we've got more computing power in a computer than the brain of a mouse. They reckon by 2024, sorry, I've forgotten the date there. By 2045, that the computing power that will be available through machines will surpass all of our collective power as a human race. And at that point, if computing can invent itself, what's stopping growth at a rate that we can't even imagine? Is that scary or not? I don't know. That's for another talk. The reality is it's just happening around us, whether we like it or not. And we need to embrace it and make the most of it to give our children opportunities. If you miss out on this revolution, they're going to miss out on society. So, as we stand today, there are lots of things happening. Everything is kind of up for grabs. We need to understand what we've got to teach. We've got to understand how to teach it. It can't just be in the same way that we teach physics and maths and geography and history. No detriment to those subjects. They're great subjects. They're really relevant. But computer science is different. And, importantly, we've got to understand how to enable teachers to teach this. It's a huge game changer. And we hope desperately that, we're not going to find in 10 years' time that we've taught all of this and some new revolution has come out. What's the next revolution going to be after the digital revolution? I don't know. Maybe it's going to move so fast that the digital revolution will be left behind. Goodness knows what's going to come after it. So what we need is a vision. We need a vision for computer science. And the vision is that computer science is a fundamental discipline, held in the same esteem that maths and physics and chemistry, biology, geography, history. Forgive me if there's teachers out there from a subject I haven't mentioned and I've now offended you. They're all important. We're not saying that you should displace anything. They're all important. But computer science is a fundamental principle. And every child should learn this from primary school onwards. So in the UK, primary school is from 5-year-olds. We're not saying that we're going to make 5-year-olds program in C# and create the next app. That's not what it's about. It's about the underlying principles of computer science. And when we start to look at them, they're actually quite interesting. So, first thing, it's about ideas. It's not about technology. It's about this thing that we call computational thinking. And when we start to delve into what computational thinking is, we realize it's not just about computer science. It's not just a term that's relevant for computer science. Computational thinking is a thinking process. It's a way of analyzing a problem. It's a way of breaking it down. It's a way of structuring it, sequencing it, and creating a set of rules to follow. Does that lend itself to writing a computer program? Yes. Does that lend itself to baking a cake? Yes. Does that lend itself to building IKEA furniture? No, the instructions there don't follow any computational science. Goodness knows who write those. But you get the idea. It's a set of instructions to follow. So it's not about trying to turn everybody into a computer scientist. It's about basic principles that are cross-curricular. They apply everywhere. So just to kind of show you why, and a lot of what we do, we call it computing without computers, or it's called computers unplugged. The idea is you go into your computing classroom, you unplug the computer and you don't use it. You use other ways to teach computational thinking. And here's an example of something that we teach computational thinking. We start with a set of kids. They've got some numbers. We give them a set of rules to follow. They say you move to a square with your numbers. If you've got a bigger number like this number 6, he has to move to the right and he progresses forward. It's a set of rules. We get all of the children to follow those rules in parallel. Wow, parallel processing, quick tie into computer science. Speed it up a bit because it's very boring to watch. And what comes out at the end? Hey presto, a sorted set of numbers. No computer science, no programming, a set of rules. You get the kids engaged. Play it outside on the playground, bigger numbers. Get them to think about, well, hang on, surely the teacher just put me in a particular order. That's what made it work. Will it matter if I start in a different order? No, it doesn't. The rule works for anything. So we've got them to think about a process, a set of rules, which has an outcome. We haven't touched a computer, and we haven't talked about programming. But you can see the analogy straight away there. Obviously, it's a classic sorting algorithm, which if we want to, we could write a computer program to do, and that's quite interesting in itself, but it's just about following a set of rules to get an outcome. Is it the best way to do it? Would there be a quicker way to do it? Does it matter what kind of data we're sorting? Why is all this relevant? Because it's something we do all the time. You pick up your phones, you've got your data in there, you've got your address book, you're finding things. How does all that work? Is there a better way to do it? These are very, very cross-curricular ideas. So where else kind of does computer science or these computational thinking things fit into other areas. Well, forgive me, I should have translated this into Portuguese because it would have made more sense. I'm sorry, you'll have to cope with it in English. This is about language skills. This is about sentence construction. Start over on the left there, hit the first grey dot, take any path out of there. So I'm going to take the, and then I just follow on, following the arrows around. So I'm going to go, the big pirate laughed, and a huge clown sang. Does anybody recognize this from computer science? It's a finite state machine. Wow, that's a really, I mean, I learned that as an undergraduate at university. Why is it so complicated? It's not. It's just a set of rules to follow to in our case, build up an English sentence. It's a really simple idea. It's very cross-curricular. An English teacher would teach this maybe, not thinking, oh, I'm teaching a finite state machine, but it would be a set of rules. We need a noun and a pronoun and a verb, etc., and we string them together and we get a sentence. So we're not about replacing other subjects. We're not about saying that computer science is better than anything else. We're saying this computational thinking is cross-curricular and it is everywhere. And the other important vision is that it's for every child. It's not just for geeks. And it's mostly importantly for girls. So forgive me, I can't see in the audience out there if there are any girls. You have better brains to be computer scientists than we men do. It's been proven. But you all get switched off to it and you think it's a boring area to go into. And nobody follows it. But it's amazing, and those women that do have fantastic careers. So it's definitely not just about teaching geeks. It's not about teaching people to be a computer scientist. It's just like we understand the natural world, so we teach physics, we teach geography, we teach chemistry, we teach maths, we teach how the human world works. We teach the history, the politics, we teach those subjects. That's how the human world works. We now need to also teach how the digital world works, because we're all living in it. And the skills that you learn through this will ultimately lead to better employment prospects, because you can't get away from this technology. So, if I haven't sold it to you yet, this will sell it to you. This is where we really link computer science into the area of music. Where does computer science come into music? If anybody doesn't know, the whole music industry is digitized. It's all driven by computers now anyway. But what about the process of writing a song? Could we look, because this is what lots of kids are engaged in, aren't they? They all listen to music on their iPod. So if this is going to work now, I'm going to play you this video to show you how even a song is really a process.
Turn around. Get a little bit lonely and you're never coming round. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit tired of listening to the sound of my tears. Turn around. Every now and then I get a little bit terrified and then I see the look in your eyes. Turn around, bright eyes. Every now and then I fall apart and I need you now tonight. And I need you more than ever. And if you only hold me tight, we'll be holding on forever.
I could play that longer, but I won't. But you can see, for those who are into computer science, what have we drawn? A flowchart. It's a set of rules. It's a set of things to follow. And it produces, in this case, a song. It's a good example, again, of how the principle of computer science is so cross-curricular. It doesn't take rocket science to see where, if you're teaching these other subjects, you're probably doing this anyway. You just may not have thought about it in this way. You sequence the things that the children need to do, and you've written them down as a set of instructions, and you've said, do this 10 times. Wow, that's a flowchart to me. So the principles are very much there. So the other part of the vision is that it's educational, not instrumental. It's about the education. It's not about trying to solve a problem today. And it's not just vocational. It really needs to happen for the good of the economy. People need to be more digitally aware. Oh, sorry, I don't know what happened there. My slides just swapped around. There you go, good old technology. There we go. It is a reality that today there are millions of jobs unfilled because of the lack of people with the skills to do them. And many of those jobs are in computer science related jobs. So yes, some of this is the fact that we do need more people in computer science. But hopefully, as you've seen so far, the reason we're not getting people into computer science is because they haven't understood those fundamental skills as they've come through education. They've been switched off to computer science very early on, so they don't think about it as a career. In fact, many people in computer science switch to it later on. They go out into some career, realize how important computer science is in that career, and then come back and retrain to get into computing. So the more we can do to educate people generally about computer science, as well as being good for them anyway, and the general ability to live in today's world, it will make more people aware of computer science and actually select it as a career, which is good for our economy. Your economy, the world's economy, for us to move forward. And then the last thing to say about this, and a really important point, and this switches so many people off, is just to reiterate, it's a discipline. It's about an understanding. It's not about a skill. We are not talking about teaching everybody to be a programmer. Coding is one small part of what we're trying to do. And there's been lots of press around, which has been great, but maybe with slightly the wrong message. Bill Gates has been up there, why everybody should learn coding. He's kind of got the right idea, but he maybe just said it in the wrong way. If anybody listens to that message, you have to really think about what he's saying. He's not actually saying that everybody should write programs. He's saying everybody should understand how things sequence together. He's talking about computational thinking. But the press have got hold of it as well. It's been on our national newspapers. Every child will now learn to code. They will, but that's only one small part of what we're trying to achieve. So where does coding fit into this? Yes, coding is an important part. It's actually, when you understand it, a really great vehicle to appreciate what you're doing. We've talked about this computational thinking. Here's some computational thinking. Decomposition. Think of a problem and break it down into its separate parts. Then look at the pattern recognition. Understand the parts. What's common? What are the bits that you can pull out that are easy to do? And then design the routine to do it. And then write that routine out as a sequence of instructions. Now, I could stop at that point, and at that point I could have been talking about baking a cake, designing a car, writing a program, solving a problem, building a wardrobe. It would not matter. Those are common processes. But having got it into this stage of a sequence, the next thing to do is you need to run your sequence. You need to do the action. And it's quite easy, computationally, to write a program to do that. So we often then write the program. And that's where the coding bit kind of fits in. What's also of interest is what happens when we've written the program? Where does it go from there? Well, we take the program and we need to understand how the program represents the real world. We need to understand how the data is stored. Many of you do it without thinking about it. If you take a picture on your phone and then you upload it to your Facebook page or something, you're given a choice. Do you want small, medium, or large? What's that about? It's about the way the picture is represented. It's about the way the data is stored for your picture. You're making informed decisions about that because of the bandwidth of your phone. If you're at home, you might do it large because you're on your wireless. If you're out and about in Sintra, as we were yesterday, we uploaded it small because I was on a 4G connection and I was paying money for it. By understanding the technology, I was able to make informed decisions. And then ultimately, where does that data go? It runs on some hardware. If you understand a bit more about the hardware, it helps you make informed choices. We're all aware of the disaster Samsung has had with its phone recently and the battery problems. Yeah, that's underlying hardware. We all use our smartphones. We know if we leave them on GPS, the batteries run out. That's the underlying hardware. What many people don't think about is the computing power that is everywhere around us. It's in our transport system, it's in our utilities, it's in almost everything we interact with today. It's in our ATM machines. Understanding that technology enables you to appreciate it more and be aware of what it can do and what its limitations are. So, that's why it's important. It's taken me a long time to get to this point, but hopefully now you're sold on the fact that computer science is important. And that's the journey that we've been through in the UK already. How did all that come about? Because it didn't just happen overnight. So what I'm going to share with you now is what happened in England and how we've got to where we are and what have been kind of the good points and the bad points about it. Well, all that we've just talked about, a group of academics and people from industry got together back in about 2006, 2008, and had this conversation and talked and realised all the things that we've just discussed. They realised how important it was to get computer science into education. And they came together and wrote a CAS, stands for Computing at Schools, a CAS curricula. If we could teach computing in schools, what would we teach and why? The problem was, it's great to have an idea like that, but what are going to make schools teach it? You can't just go to a school and say, I want you to teach computer science because I think it's a great idea. What's in the way? Well, the government. The whole system is against you. You want to make a change? Oh no, it's going to take years and years and years. It's just not going to happen. It's got to be reviewed, you know, lots of politicians get involved, it takes ages, it's just, you know, you might as well give up and go home. So that was the first battle. But CAS did it. They wrote their computer science curricula, and a few schools that had the flexibility to teach it started teaching computer science to their children. And they got great feedback, fantastic results, and a huge enthusiasm for this curricula. As CAS then started to grow, industry got quite involved. And industry was out there saying, we don't have enough people coming into, in this case, into Google. So people from industry started writing influential articles in our press about the importance of computer science. And once you start getting industry involved, people start listening. It's not just a group of academics who think it's a good idea. This is a real world. These are the people that make things, and they're saying we have a problem. So that was hugely influential. And then the pivotal moment happened in the UK. A group called the Royal Society, who are hugely influential, listened to what was happening in CAS and decided to investigate. They decided to look at all the arguments that we have just been talking about and say, is that real? Is this just a group of academics that think it's a good idea? Or is this factually correct? Is it as important as they really think? And they published a report called Shut Down or Restart. This is a report from a national body that's read by government. It's the most interesting read I think I've had in many years. It was fantastic. It basically said, if you don't do something, you might as well shut down your country. You cannot continue as you are. You are going nowhere. Your kids do not have the right background. Your industry does not have the right professionals. The skills are going to move elsewhere. You are doomed. Or you need to restart. You need to go back to first principles. You need to think about what education is about. We need to think about the skills of our next generation. And this report recommended radical change. We were very fortunate, or maybe the timing was just sorted out behind the scenes, but at the same time the government decided to review our national curricula. So as the report came out, CAS was forming and having huge success. This damning report had been produced that said we need to do something as a country. The government said, oh, I think we'll look at our national education. And they adopted the concept of computer science being on the national curricula. And that was fundamental. And in 2015, it finally happened. All that work, all that thinking for that single page of document. It doesn't read like much. It's a few words on a bit of paper. But it was the way forward. This mandates that schools in the UK now teach computer science. It doesn't tell you what to teach. It doesn't tell you how to teach it. It doesn't tell you about the technology. It tells you about the underlying principles. And this was a game changer. Now that it came from government, everybody woke up. Everybody was interested. In the UK, we have what are called awarding bodies. They manage our national curricula, delivery and testing. So a child going through school will do a GCSE at the age of 16. The GCSE, the examination, is governed by these bodies. All these bodies thought, wow, this is important. They all generated computer science national qualifications. So now the children at school can work to a recognised qualification at 16 and at 18. This was a huge game changer because now the kids were interested in computer science. The schools had the ability to actually provide a national examination in it. So schools were suddenly interested in it. And then the government said, yeah, okay, we think it's a great idea, but we've got no money. Just make it happen. Yeah, we haven't got the money to train all these teachers and make them all aware of computer science. I know we used to do that in the past when we did curricular changes, but yeah, this time we've got no money. It was your fault, CAS. You were the organisation that made this happen. You were the drivers from industry and academia that said it was a good idea. Can you help? Can you make it happen? We've said it's a good idea, everything's in place, but we haven't got the money to do it. So they reached back out to CAS, and CAS now is growing. So the success of this CAS organisation is it's led and formed by teachers, it's formed by academics, it's formed by industry. It's from people who have an interest in what the goals of the organisation are. It's there to give vision to teachers. It's there to help teachers now deliver this new computer science education. And importantly, it's independent. It's not saying teach Python. It's not saying buy Microsoft PCs. It's not saying buy iPhones to teach your kids. It's about the principles. So CAS, this organisation, has been hugely successful. It's got over 25,000 members now, which is still not all of the schools. There's still a lot of schools not joined up yet. It is a slow process. It is based in the UK, but we have loads and loads of international members now. We're not restricting it to the UK. Anybody can join CAS and be part of this community. Across the UK is huge. And again, it's not been a one solution fits all. It's lots of different ways to engage with the community. So one of the things CAS has done is it's worked with 10 universities up and down the country to help in their regional area. And this is where I come in, because I manage one of these 10 regional centres in the centre of England. And we look after all this activity in our area. We've got lots of other universities engaged, because the universities are the expertise of computer science, and they can engage with schools. We've got what we call hubs. Hubs are just teachers who are teaching computer science who collectively get together and share their experiences. They might bring in expertise to talk. They might just say, well, I tried this idea and it didn't work. I found this really good resource, it's brilliant, whatever. They share ideas. And one of our key successes has been these master teachers. We've gone into the education community and we have found enthusiastic teachers. They might not be technically knowledgeable, but it doesn't matter. If they've got a passion and an enthusiasm for computer science, we want them. We bring them into university, we give them training, we get them up to speed on computer science, and they go back into their community and they're an evangelist and provide training and support in their communities. Because we cannot do it as merely 10 universities around the UK. We've got lead schools who are doing great things with computer science, who share with other schools. We've got a magazine that's out there as well, and a massive online community. It's not costing a lot to run, but it's very, very vibrant. So it's ticked the government's boxes. And of course, because it's successful, lots of other people have wanted to get involved. We've got all of the major players, Google and Microsoft, Cisco, all engaging, British Telecom in the UK, all engaging with the community to provide resources as part of their outreach type work. And I'm just going to share this one with you now, because when I started doing this, I thought, well, you know, my background is computer networking. I love teaching people about computer networks. But how in the world do you get young children to understand computer networks? So it was quite a challenge. And we developed this really simple system of teaching. And forgive me if you know about communications, you'll know what TCP/IP is. It's the protocol of the internet. How in the world do you teach that to a 7-year-old? You don't teach it the same way you teach it at university, which is about explaining how it works. For a 7-year-old, it's an investigation, it's fun. And what we do is we give the children these boxes. So there they are in the picture. We tell them nothing. Here are some boxes. Have a play with them. Figure out what they do. And they press the lights. I don't know if you'll see this on the stage. They press the buttons and lights come on. These are 6, 7-year-olds. They're just lights. They play with them for a bit, and then we say, well, that's interesting, but can you now do anything with them? If I gave one end a message, could you send that to the other end? Just using the lights. Do you think that a 6-year-old could do something? Do you think they could make it work? I didn't. I thought, I'm going to have no success. This is going to be a failure. Do you know what the 6, 7-year-olds did? Morse code. I've heard of Morse code. They Googled it on the internet, pulled down the Morse code table, they were sending Morse to each other. Even those that didn't really get it, maybe one letter A will be 1 flash, B, 2 flashes, 3, C, 3 flashes. Hey presto, I had not told them anything, and they had come up with a coding scheme. They had represented data as flashes of lights, which is very straightforward and simple to relate to binary. I didn't tell them that. Then we obviously get them to try and work together in groups. One person had one scheme, one had a different scheme. That didn't work. They needed a common scheme, so we just gave them a common scheme. For each letter, you send certain flashes of lights. So if you want to send, an A is an easy one. Send a B, you send 3 red lights because it's in the first column, and then red, red, green. If the kids are doing binary at school, we can relate that to binary. Guess what? These kids have just developed and we're using the ASCII code. That's something I learned at university. And then the best bit was, we get this, but with a much, much longer wire. It's so long that I can put them in different classrooms, and they can't see each other, and they can't talk to each other. And then I get them to send the same message. I don't tell them anything that's going to happen, but they discover it for themselves. They realize that if there's an error, it goes wrong, they don't know when to start, they don't know when to stop. They realize that they need to send a signal to say, I'm ready to send you some information. They realize they need to send a signal to say, I've finished. They realize they need to send a signal back the other way to say, I've lost track, what in the world is going on? And before you know it, they've developed TCP. That's the protocol that makes the internet work. It's amazing. We took that idea on, and we've extended it a bit further because it's worked so well. And we now have a situation where we use those same boxes, and at the very first iteration of this, we actually soldered LEDs into the wire. So if we put this clever box now in the middle, and by the way, it's not a clever box at all, it's just a few LEDs and resistors, as the data is going back and forth between the two ends, guess what happens in the middle? You can see everything that's happening. Wake up! This is the real world. This is people hacking into your communication system. Cybersecurity is huge. We're so reliant on this data, but now kids can see it for real. They can send a message from one end, and their friend in the middle can see the message as it goes through. And if you unplug the wires and mess about with it, we can change it all and actually change the data as it goes through our communication links. And this is all with children under 11. These are real simple principles, and they love it because it's so real for them. They are driven by it because they use technology and they understand some of the challenges, and this gets them to play with it. Notice the important thing: no computers. It's not about teaching people to program computers. This is an underlying principle of how our world works today. So, how does it work in the UK? Well, the government does give us some funding. Nationally, we get about £1 million a year, around that target, which spread between the central CAS organisation and the 10 regional centres does not go very far. But it gives us enough money to operate. It's largely driven by enthusiastic people. We as a university have to be funded to be involved in the programme. But lots of other companies are involved, and they are funding projects around this area all the time. So there's loads and loads of initiatives coming out to support computer science in education. And these are not just available in England, they're globally available. One sponsored by British Telecom in the UK is called Barefoot. And this has got nothing to do with computers. We don't reach for a computer at any stage to teach any of these principles. We look at patterns. We look at how you play noughts and crosses. We look at how a piece moves around a chessboard and relate that to finding your way around the London Underground. It's all about mapping. There's lots and lots going on. So that's one project, for example. I'm sure you've been aware, because these are all initiatives that are wider around. The Raspberry Pi has been one that's been hugely successful. A computer for 20 quid. It's really cheap, gives you a lot of power in there. The BBC got back on board and launched the BBC Micro, which was given away to schools in England for free. And now I believe it's available as a product you can buy. And the Arduino. These are all little computer projects. Again, you can do a lot of stuff with this without actually worrying about the computing. Or with the interfaces into here, the computing is very simple. It's not about getting onto the command line and programming in Linux or something. We can use drag and drop kind of programs. Another great ways to engage. Here's a really cheap product called a Makey. It plugs into a computer through a USB port, and basically it replicates the key presses. So if you've got a program that you press A, B, and C, and it generates music, you can program the Makey, connect it up to some bananas, and touch the bananas. You've completed the electric circuit, and your bananas now play music. Wow! Kids think it's brilliant. And it's just an understanding that it's an electrical contact, it's made a circuit, and you can make anything happen. It inspires kids. It's brilliant. Obviously, games are a big one, so we get kids to make tinfoil arrows, like for a Nintendo controller, and you touch the arrow, you are earthed as a human, you touch the arrow, you've made the circuit, so you can play games by touching your own keyboard. Fantastic. And there's an example there of musical stairs. I couldn't find the video for this, unfortunately. It's the same. The handrail there you can see is covered in tinfoil. The stairs are all in tinfoil. So depending where you stand, you make a circuit. It's an input to a computer, and it plays a note. So doing your dance kind of up and down the stairs, hey presto, you can play a musical tune. Educationally, it's fantastic. It just engages with the children. And yes, there is lots about coding as well, because coding is a vehicle to see some of this happen. So I'm sure many of you are aware of Scratch, which is an American initiative out of MIT. This is about getting kids to code without having to write all the complicated words out like other programs. It's what we call a drag and drop language. So you can just drag blocks down and make it code. It is incredibly powerful. Blockly is another language which we use for control. There's a Code Academy around. These are free initiatives. They're all out there. None of this is costing any money. There's Python, which is now... Python is a professional programming language, but it's very easy for children to engage with. Probably secondary school a bit later on. We've got the Hour of Code. We've got Kodu, which kids can write programs and then play it on their Xbox. And what was the killer one that all the kids loved? Minecraft. If you're not into Minecraft, get into Minecraft. You get to build a whole world. Well, now, as well as build the world, you can program the world. A few simple lines of code can build anything. And my area, Cisco, are involved in this. How do we teach computer networking to kids? It's really dry and boring. And we haven't got the money to buy the equipment to build computer networks. We can use these simulators, which are now available through the Cisco Academy program. All for free. So, what are the important parts to take home from this? The singular focus has got to be computer science is a fundamental discipline that has to be taught. The driving force has been not about particular products, but about the principles. The CAS organisation was independent, not driven by any other initiative. And in the UK, with the support we had from the Royal Society and the government changing the policy, which I suppose was a bit of luck, reviewing our education system, it's all worked to get us where we are today. Lots of the resources are available on this link, and I'm sure the slides will be available. So remember, it's about empowering and informing our children. It's easy to get them engaged. They all love this. They are so curious. Computer science can be very creative and very playful. And yes, it does lead to employment prospects. Thank you very much.